Hi, data leaders. Paul from the Data Storytellers here. Today, I'm with Denis who is the Chief Data Officer at Getlink, which is a conglomerate responsible for a number of companies, including the Eurotunnel. So great to have you with us, Denis.
Hello, Paul.
Just to start with, tell us a few words about yourself, your background and your journey to becoming this CDO, because you've been in the transport industry for some time, but I don't want to spoil it.
Okay, yeah, I've been working in the mobility industry for 20 years. I graduated as a statistician, so it was in the old time where machine learning was called statistics. And I've been working for companies like Sistra, Vinci, Transdev, and now Getlink. Mainly at the beginning of my career in working for long-term and short-term demand forecast and also pricing optimization. So I'm half quant and half specialist in mobility.
And you mentioned that you started out as a statistician. What was the transition like towards for you personally to going towards more data science and more of a modern data role, let's call it?
Yeah, well, when it's very well, it's really different. It's really different way of considering data. When you're a statistician, usually you are looking for data because you have it's very scarce. It's very difficult to get. And to do so, you need to design first, think about the model and apply the data to the model so you can make sure that you design your data according to the model. So now it's a bit of the contrary, is what I felt, is that you have the data, so you run various models and you try to find some insight and then you fine tune at the end. So it's kind of to me, it's kind of a reverse way of thinking about the data. And it's a huge change compared to when I started.
So what are you up to in your current role as the Chief Data Officer for Getlink?
Chief Data Officer, yeah, it's it has two parts. I joined the company like 6 months ago, so I'm still discovering what's happening there. But there are two main parts. One is to support the businesses with regards to data analytics, machine learning, and deep learning. The idea is to make sure that these techniques are applied within the company to make more of the data we have at the moment. And the second part is what I call usually the underlying part, is to organize data to make sure that from the producer to the consumer, the data flows smoothly and that everybody can have access to the data. So it's really two parts of the business. One is the upper part, the shiny part, like machine learning, deep learning, image recognition, all that stuff, fancy stuff that you can see in the news. But the other part, and maybe the most prominent and most difficult to convey is really the data transformation.
Absolutely. So obviously you're now in the Chief Data Officer role, and a lot of people have very different expectations as to what role you play within the business. And for you personally, from a transformation perspective, what role do you think you play within Getlink, or that you're going to play?
Well, indeed, Chief Data Officer is a kind of a blurred position. You are in between the business on the one hand and the IT on the other hand. And the goal of this kind of being Chief Data Officer, the goal is for me is really to make sure that there is a smooth there is a kind of transformation. In fact, it's first a transformation role. So you are taking a company from companies that is doing data but on the verge, and to bring data into a central place within the company. So it's a kind of you reverse the way people view data in a way, and also you put data at the heart of the way you monitor and you monitor your company.
So what do you think makes a data-driven company? You know, you can speak here from your own experiences, or maybe in the wider industry as well.
Oh, sorry, can you repeat the question? Yes.
I just asked, what do you think makes a data-driven organization from your experience?
Well, in the mobility industry, we all have eyes for the kind of digital native. It's tightly linked to be honest, tightly linked to the digital world. It's the idea of making sure that you have the right information at the right time, and that the information is designed in such a way that for everybody in the organization, it's directly actionable. It's traditionally it's kind of very difficult to get on-time data, and usually you have most of the information with a delay of 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and we now feel with the kind of digital transformation that is currently going on in the mobility industry, that it's not sufficient enough. So you need to bring up-to-date data very close to the decision that you are able to make. So in order to be able to switch quickly. If I take an example in the industry, for Eurotunnel, for example, we operate a terminal. On this terminal, we have flows of trucks that are coming in. What we want to do is to make sure to anticipate the arrival of our clients, the drivers, to make sure that we are able to run the business smoothly and convey them from one part of the channel to the other part in the most efficient manner. To do so, you need to be always upfront the operation. So you need to be able to anticipate everything. And this is where data is playing a role.
So within the mobility space then, what do you think are the greatest opportunities for ambitious organizations and ambitious leaders within your industry?
If I take public transport, where I previously worked, you have one big thing which is at stake is to move through what we call the MaaS, so mobility as a service. So it's a switch from kind of sector mobility. So you have public transport mobility, free cars, driving your own cars, taxis, bikes, and stuff like that, which are siloed at the moment. And what is at stake is to build a platform at the moment that will cover all these transport modes in one app. So you make sure that your customer or the user of public transport, they have in their pocket all the mobility choice to get from one place to another. In the freight industry, you have similar patterns, like big. Like making sure that the goods are flowing from one place to another in a seamless way. So it's also something with regards to data. How do you make sure that the information is correctly gathered, is pushed to the right people at the right time, and that this information is enriched throughout the journey to the end customer. So for this, you need to first to get the latest data techniques or data structure within your company, but also in a broader view, there is what is ongoing at the moment is a kind of data alliance between the players to make sure that from one place, to make sure that from one for moving one thing from one place to another, all the actors are coordinating and are in line to provide the best service.
And I love this idea of mobility as a service, because what you're doing there is you're not turning data over for on a grand scheme. You're not turning over data for a profit, but actually to benefit, whether it's the city or the country or just infrastructure in general, which is great. So, what do you think are the big challenges that come with data professionals trying to leverage this kind of change within that industry?
Many changes ahead. First, not being an established kind of line of business, you need to create everything from scratch. And so you have to first to get people to know what you're doing and to make sure that they do not confuse you with the IT or with the business. So you are kind of in the middle of this, these two. And then you need to reconcile, I would say you need to reconcile a kind of antithetic views. You need to have a vision first to make sure that your long-term goal, you are clear on your long-term goal. And then you need to be on the opposite, flexible about it, because there are several means to get to your hand. You need to secure a roadmap and yet being able to be opportunistic about it. If you have a use case which will serve the long-term goals, then you need to grab it and to review the roadmap. And as what I said, also you need to tie up the fancy part with a kind of more difficult part, which is underwater, what I mentioned before. And everything that relates to data management, data governance, which are very difficult to enforce within the company if you don't have on the other side some benefits for the end users. So yeah, it's very, you have many challenges, but then it's kind of very interesting to do so.
Mm-hmm. So that was a question on the challenges of the wider business, which I think you kind of covered it in a really wide scope. So from your experience, what are the best ways for data and analytics leaders to actually gain more influence within the business to execute these roadmaps that you just mentioned?
Yeah, so first, the roadmap needs to be very simple and not only focus on data science and machine learning for me. You have to cover the broad spectrum of data. So it means that you need to address, from the use case or end user business point of view, you need to address several types of data, ranging from kind of internal open data to make sure that data is shared within the organization. BI also. So how do you make a consistent BI within the business and you don't, business don't overspread BI everywhere, push advanced analytics like machine learning techniques, and at the high end, use artificial intelligence to be able to make forecasts and to foresee what can happen. So you need to push these 4 lines of what I call data for business. So these are the use cases that, for me, you need to address. So define all of them, define use cases in your field for all of them, and then you need to support this use case with what is under the iceberg, namely a kind of data governance. How do you organize within the company to bring data at the center of the company? And this needs, you need to secure the IT, you need to secure the people from the business, and you need to make sure that some people within the company are taking care of the quality of the data. This is the second part. So you need also to make sure that data is properly managed. So it's ranging from having data dictionaries, making sure that data is cleaned when it's passed through the end customer, and all that goes with data management. And data is exposed at the end of the pipe. And then on the third, for me, the fourth pillar is to derive a technical blueprint, because you have so many tools on the market that you cannot address all. So you need to bring to your community of users a set of tools that are kind of recommended. So you can make also bring design communities around these tools. So you need 1 or 2 tools for BI, but not much more. Some for data preparation, and also for data management and data ingestion. So this is what I call the technical blueprint. And then, last but not least, the most difficult part is to embark people and bring a data culture within the company. And this, you can do it by doing like regular meetings. It's communication first. It's very important to communicate around what you've done. Training, on-the-hand training. So for this, what I prefer to do is when I design one use case, for example, I turn it into a training, because this is company data. So in the mind of the people or your colleagues, it's important to note that like data transformation is not for the news, or not for some fancy people in Paris. It's for everybody, and you can do it because, and this is, you show it because you are using company data. So it's quite important for me. And also, so you do some training and some webinars. So you have a full stream, which is quite important on people and culture.
And that sounds like a really fantastic roadmap. I really like what you mentioned, especially towards the end, about the communications piece and actually knowing who's going to be using the data. What do you think are the personality traits of good data transformation leaders? Now, what kind of qualities do they possess to get the message across, do you think?
The first one for me is to be part and expert, being part and expert of data, and have a very good knowledge of the field you're working in, of the business end of your company. And this is why I've been taken for these positions, because I had this knowledge. Then there is a sense of humility, because the roadmap and what you will achieve will not match at the end of the day, but you need to push this through, because project, we are very optimistic about the project, but it takes longer to design. But then you need to be quite positive about what you're doing. I'd say, and consistent. What I feel is very important is good understanding of the business needs. And I think it comes at the heart of the data transformation. If you design stuff that are not used by because they are not properly designed, or they are not, there are many tools that there are many use cases that you can design. You feel that they are useful for somebody, but if they are not really targeted, then it will fail. So it's really to be, it needs to be designed hand in hand with the business, and the business first, and it needs to be taken care by the business. So it means that you need to take a lot of time with the business. There is a kind of in the overall, you need to be able to manage, I think, what you give on the one hand. So you will give tools, but you need also to take on the other hand. So it's still you position yourself within the two. So this is the way I think you build strong relationship with the business, because they will trust you, and they will get aware about what you can do. So they will call you whenever they have a use case to develop. And then they will trust you for developing a new use case. And as I said, these use cases are useful also to bring the full transformation. So you can, on the other hand, push some necessary change on the way data is managed.
So with that in mind, can you tell us about a time, maybe in one of your previous roles, where you actually use this to success? You know, you reached out to the business and were able to implement these kind of roadmaps.
Okay, I was one of the, in my previous position, the company was structured around many contracts which were located everywhere in the world. And it was kind of difficult to reach these people. So what I decided to do is to do some data counts, what I call data counts at the moment. People were physically very far from the location where I was, and it was teleworking was not as developed as today. So what we decided to do was to go to design a product which was going to the business and to their location for a couple of days, like 3-4 days, and doing this data count. In advance, we would choose a general topic. It can be a customer relationship. It can be predictive maintenance. It could be whatever, like flows optimization, whatever the topic, with a strong data related topic. And we would go on site working for 3-4 days with the people on the data set, only to discover the data set. And at the end of the 4 days, we brought the businesses with, okay, we've been looking at all your data. So in the meantime, we were discussing with the businesses. So we built a personal relationship with the people. And at the end, we would deliver a kind of package. Okay, what do we feel that the use case for you are this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. So we would list the use case, and it was the start of developing use case first, and then working more in depth in the data transformation. So I think it's quite, that's an example I would like to share.
So throughout your career then, how would you describe your role? You know, are you a change agent for the business? Are you the champion of data? Or are you the salesperson? You know, what do you perceive your role to be?
The vision of my position changed a lot. I came from analytics background, so for a long time I felt that the aim was to provide analytics and analytics skills to the company. More and more, and taking care on broader field within the data field, taking care of data management and whatever, governance and stuff like that. The idea of being more in a position of transforming the business and came up, and I do feel now that it's more. It has more to do with like business transformation or business bringing the best to the business than pure analytic skills. Pure analytic skills in the kind of data transformation, it's not. It's an important product, but it's not the sole product. As I mentioned, data sharing is a goal. You target more data sharing, you target more collaboration within the company with relationship with data. You target more quality in terms of data usage. And you also target an upskill of people through this data journey. It means that people who are doing BI, you're trying to free them from BI by developing data sharing, for example, and you're trying to push them in advanced analytics. People from advanced analytics, you're trying to push them on the verge of machine learning because basically, with the tools that exist on the market and the democratization of the field of statistics and machine learning, some people are skilled enough to do machine learning tasks. They are pretty simple algorithms that doesn't require a huge background to be run. And if you engage in a relationship with these people, you can push them upstream. And yeah, as I said, it's kind of one of the good aspects of this data transformation.
Mm. And it's great to hear you talk a lot about collaboration and upskilling. How do you approach the education of the organization in terms of getting data to the people, so to speak?
I think I really believe in giving access first is a prerequisite. So as I mentioned, you can work on providing open data within the organization, but to upskill the people, I really believe that you can only do it by learning. So it goes through, for me, it goes through training. But training has to be to the point in terms of what people can learn. So you need to really adjust to the level of people, and then it needs to be also, for me, tailor-made. If you're working on, for example, Kaggle datasets, at the end of the day, I believe that it will be difficult for people to replicate what they've learned on a Kaggle dataset, for example, to the data from your internal data. So this is why I think that this training needs to be tailor-made. It needs to be tailor-made with like company data, so people can appropriate much more and can leverage and can think about what will be the next use case in their field, in their position. So it's kind of a win-win way of working, I feel.
So with these projects, how intentional are you with building a strategic plan around it, and do you have a system in place that kind of helps you to do that with the team, of course?
Well, the system, you always reinvent the system as you work.
But well, it's tailor-made, like you said, right?
Yeah, but still, you can stick to some of the principle. I mean, I mentioned the vision, I mentioned the roadmap, I mentioned 5 pillars. So this is the compass for the data transformation. And then for me, you need to work through. You need to navigate between a top-down first and a bottom-up approach. I talk much about the bottom-up approach because from my background, I came from the analytics, so I liked to work with the data set and then upskill people. But then you need also to be very aware of the top-down approach, and you need to have a system to convince the C-suites of the need for data transformation. This goes through, and you say, kind of influence system. So first, to get cloud, you need to be visible to the C-suite. You need to be very clear about your roadmap and very precise about what you need to achieve and be accountable for it. And you need to have this roadmap validated at top level so that you can leverage on it at all levels of the organization. So the top-down approach, to have it validated at the XCOM level, then what is needed, as far as I feel, is a kind of one-to-one in-depth discussion with every member of the XCOM or the top executive to make sure that your project will go through the XCOM. So this is for me what was very critical for the first 6 months in my position. Then now that the project is the overall view is validated, what you need to do is to, on a second row, to go again and see all the people to re-explain what has been validated, what you intend to do. And then you need to keep the project in a kind of a hot topic. So you need to entertain whenever you need to have kind of milestones that are visible within the organization. So it means that for me, your first, and this is a strong point of methodology, I think, your first use case also needs to be some flagships. It will not be the use case that brings the best ROI, but it should be the use case that is the more explainable, the most explainable, and also the most visible within the company. What is really good to do at first is image recognition, because image recognition, if you have the ability to do so, it's self-explainable. So you don't have to do anything. It's visible. It's basically it's physical, so it talks to people. And it's quite important to launch the next, to have this in mind, to launch the next step of your roadmap.
Well, Denis, you've given us a lot on roadmap strategy. I've given you a pretty good grilling, and I think you've held up quite well. Last couple of questions I have for you. First of all, what do you like most about working in data and analytics?
Well, it's it's a broad question. I could speak for ages about it. What I do like the most in first in analytics, I think it's to bring to transform data into information, and transforming information and bringing information to the company. You bring insight, and you act as a kind of an advisor to the business, and this is something that I feel quite thrilling about analytics. And next, the last one, the second part about data in general, maybe the magnitude of it. When you convey terabytes of data from one place to another, you design tools that are working on these terabytes of data. You're running your job on the previous day, and then you get your results the next day or whatever. It's still, I feel it's still a bit magic for me. And then at the end of the day, in a broader sense, I feel that data is, well, kind of a common language within the company. So it brings people around the table. It brings discussions between the different business of your company. So, well, I think it's quite interesting to be in the middle of all these topics.
Mm. And the last question I have: what recommendations and advice would you give for data and analytics leaders today?
Be patient first. You don't. I'm not sure you're doing this kind of journey to see the end of it, but at least to see things transforming. When I get into this business, I was quite thrilled about transforming very quickly, and you feel that the people timing is much more slow. So be patient, and I think there are lots of reasons to be also quite enthusiastic about it, because we haven't seen for the moment, I think, most of what data can produce and bring. So it's kind of exciting to keep a hot field and to try to keep up to date with the latest trends and trying to apply them in your own field. Yes, there is a kind of applied research that can be very exciting, I think.
Well, Denis, thank you so much for coming on the Data Storytellers show. It's been a genuine pleasure having you on, and I've learned a ton. Hopefully we can have you on again soon.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much also, and was very happy to be here.